So continuing notes, today is 4/20, could also be the 21st for some of you. And let's talk about, our topic is going to be waves. And let's do our essential question. What is the difference between amplitude and frequency? So when talking about waves, amplitude and frequency are going to be two things you hear a lot about. So let's start with amplitude. Let's give it a definition. Amplitude, and I'm going to give the definition that we used in the notes, is the maximum extent of vibration or the distance from resting point. In our class, we're really going to look at this, the maximum distance from resting point. So we're really going to just look at amplitude in reference to a transverse wave. And amplitude is this right there. But how we apply it is, let's talk about this, that amplitude is measured in decibels capital and larger, meaning the higher this is, the larger amplitude waves are louder and travel further, which then would mean that smaller the amplitude waves, they are quieter. And don't travel as far. So for example, if you have a child crying, you might have an amplitude your amplitude would be measured, it's super high. Whereas a whisper, the amplitude is low. Okay, next we're going to talk about frequency. So here's amplitude. So now we're going to talk frequency. So frequency is the number of waves produced in a given amount of time. So what we can say from here is the higher frequency, higher the frequency, higher the frequency, the more energy. So what you're going to do in the lab today, let's finish this. Wave frequency, don't need that S, wave frequency is measured in hertz. So a higher frequency would be a high pitch. A higher frequency is a high pitch, and a lower frequency is a low pitch. Okay, and the way you're counting your frequency is by wavelengths. So if you have, actually I want to do this on another page. So a high frequency, nothing to do with amplitude, a high frequency, you're going to have a lot of wavelengths. Let me do a better one. High frequency would be, you have a lot of wavelengths. So this is a high frequency, because you have a lot of wavelengths. So here's your, each one of these, is your wavelength. So if you have the shorter the wavelength, is the higher the frequency. So that kind of is, let me turn the light on. So shorter wavelength, short wavelength, high frequency. Then if you have a low frequency, so it's going to look like this. So now low frequency, that wavelength is not going to occur very often. So this here now, this is your wavelength. So you have a longer wavelength, right? It's longer, a longer wavelength. Has a lower frequency because it doesn't occur very often, right? So here you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 wavelengths, so they occur a lot. So it's a high frequency. Here you've only got 1, 2, really that same spot, same distance, you only have one wavelength. So the longer the wavelength, the lower the frequency. Okay,